Hey guys, Mario Peshev from Dervish here. I stumbled upon a very interesting question on Quora which says, software developers, how do you feel when your employer makes millions or billions out of your project and pays you pennies? And I gotta admit that I've been in that particular situation. When I was a junior developer, I was in my second job and I worked solo on a project and felt like I was getting paid a tenth of what the business gets or even less than that. And to be completely honest, I really didn't get the dynamics of business, so I just wanted to describe how does a business operate and what's the purpose of paying salaries and what's the kind of billing model of defining payments, especially in a service-based environment. I actually wrote a blog post on that in terms of salaries and how are salaries determined, how does a business decide on how much can they pay for a service provider, and a bunch of other things that I'm going to link in the comments. But in a nutshell, let's say that you're a developer that earns, let's say, $4,000 a month, and you work on a project that pays $40,000 a month to the business, right? So you may feel screwed because essentially you're working on most of that specific project, but in a nutshell, you're getting only a tenth of that project in particular. So let's see what goes into the billing of a specific business and how is pricing determined, how are sales determined, and everything along those lines. So you may apply that to different types of service models and different types of companies. With smaller companies, it may be different, more up to 10, 20, 30 people. With larger enterprises, it's also different, but let's take the median gap just as an example, between 30 or 50 to about 100, 200, 300 people. So if you work in that sort of organization, you're in the services business and you work on a project, you may feel underpaid. But what happens behind the scenes is the following. First off, if we take that numbers out of the box, that 4,000 paycheck and the 40,000 project costs, what sort of those 40,000 go to you? Or what percentage is actually going to you as compared to going to your, let's say, employer's pocket? First off, the business pays taxes. So out of those 40,000, different companies have different taxes, could be anywhere between 10% and 40%, roughly speaking. So consider that a subtraction of the money that are going to go through that. Second, that project starts with a pre-sales phase, which means that probably the CEO or salespeople or project managers or other people are going to work on certain assignments before the project even starts. So that amount, of course, has to be included in the entire quote of the project. Moreover, over time, this project is going to include other people as well. You may do the vast majority of the work, but probably you're consulting with colleagues in your office, with a project manager, with QAs, or marketing assistants or whoever, different types of people depending on the environment. This means that there are calls held for the client, there are tools that are probably getting paid for, there's probably office space, there's probably computer equipment, there's probably a lot more that's being paid for by the employer in order to make sure that you have the opportunity to work on that project. And more importantly, how does a client go to a company in the first place? Well, through a combination of different things: sales, marketing, branding, PR, advertising. All of those account for a good chunk of the revenue of the company. Different companies invest anywhere between 10 to 15% of their revenue on advertisement or marketing. Some companies, including Salesforce and Twitter and some others, are known to pay up to about 40% of their revenue for, again, marketing, sales, advertisement, and things like that. So if you consider that and extract it of the revenue of that particular project, you'll see that the gap is not really that large. And there are other parts that go into the equation as well. For example, you get your net paycheck of say 4,000, but all of the taxes are again covered by the employer. Moreover, your kind of month includes the type of work that you do, be it development or marketing or QA or testing or project management, whatever be it. But you also participate in meetings, you participate in some kickoffs or take some time off, you have holidays, a lot of other things that are not actually billable work done by you over the course of the month. So that's one more thing to account for. Moreover, let's say that this project takes 6 months and you're getting underpaid. But after those 6 months, you're expecting to still have a job and still getting paid, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the company is going to have a project for you, or they may have a half-time project for you or something else. And in that case, the company is, roughly speaking, obliged to pay you unless they kind of fire you. And they have to have some buffer to cover for that. Or even for that particular project of yours, you may do a lot of work, but there are probably some assets or dependencies or some some answers from the client that you need to get answered in order to move forward. So there are certain gaps. There is some communication overhead put in. There are other people involved. There is marketing, there is office space, there is taxes. There's a lot more to actually running a business. Again, moreover, some businesses do need some additional money, either for rainy days, slow holidays, or any other thing where business isn't running that well, or for investing in different opportunities. They may be investing in training, in renowned computer equipment, in software, in licenses, in a lot more, in order to become better at what they do, and in order to train their staff, to land new customers, and so on and so on. So overall, it's a complex equation, and it doesn't really look as simple. And again, I've been in that trap myself. I felt like doing 90% of the work myself and getting underpaid. I felt like my management was putting a lot more margin on top of that project. And at the end of the day, it turns out I really wasn't right. And I see that other people are facing the same kind of circumstances, more or less. And people who haven't really dealt with business, people who haven't ran a team, a company, an organization, often can think about everything that happens within an organization itself. And of course, there are other variables. Could be company lunches or other treats at the office, could be moving to a new, more expensive space, could be this, could be that, could be projections for bonuses or additional health benefits or anything else that the company provides. All of those are added for kind of every single person of the organization. There are often people who are hired as consultants or third-party vendors for different things. Salespeople often take a commission of their sales, so that's another thing you have to consider for a project, and so on and so on. So bottom line, it's really complicated. If you feel underpaid, that's not necessarily false. It may in fact be true, but you may want to consider all of the other factors that come into defining the project cost. And if you feel that you can do it yourself, of course, you can just quit and try to work with those clients yourself, not with those particular clients, because you probably have specific agreements in place not to steal clients from your own employer. But you can try to do it yourself, and probably you won't have that same overhead. But the drawback is you're going to have to fund your own business, pay taxes, probably deal with recruitment, which is extremely expensive and complicated, and also money goes into that particular thing, and so on, in order to run the show yourself. You may be more profitable, you may increase your salary over time, but just don't expect it to be easy, and don't necessarily believe that you are underpaid. Just try to think clearly, prepare a pros and cons list of working for yourself or switching to another company, and staying at that company and working within your job requirements, and see what makes more sense in your particular scenario.